Notebook sample, you will need to cut 3 pieces. The first one is just our pretend fake lower shirt sleeve. So you just need a big rectangle. I suggested 8 by 10, but make sure it has a 5-inch length slit. Second of all, you'll need a binding. The binding should be 1 1/4 inch wide. 5.5 inches or longer is fine. We'll just cut off the excess if it's too long. And then number 3, you need to make yourself a little gauntlet pattern. This one I have is 2.5 inches wide, and you'll notice the side on the right is 6.5 inches, and then the side on the left is 5 3/4 to match our 5-inch slit that we are cutting in our little sleeve. And you'll see one side's a little bit longer, so that's, you could just kind of split that into half. So you could fold the pattern in half and make one side 6.5 inches long and the other 5 3/4. So you just copy what's drawn there and let me know if you have questions. Okay, to start this notebook sample, we want to have our shirt face down, and you should have marked your slash line. You're going to take your binding and you're also going to put it face down right next to your slash line. I'm lining up the bottom where the cuff would go. And you also take the gauntlet with the shorter side next to the slash, face down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance starting at the bottom, and I'm going to sew to where the slash line ends, which is right here, and then I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch past the slash line and backstitch. Okay? Okay, that's where my slash line ends. I'll use this red pin to mark a 1/4 inch past it. And then same on the other side. Okay. Okay, so I'm at the bottom of the sleeve. I'm sewing to 1/4 inch from my slit. I'm going to sew all the way down to the end of my slit. Let's see, there's the end of my slit. Okay, so I'm at the end of my slit. I'm going to sew 1/4 inch longer. There we are, and now I'm going to backstitch. Cool. Okay, so I just finished sewing my binding with 1/4 inch away from the slit, 1/4 inch past it. Now I'm going to sew the gauntlet side, 1/4 inch away from the slit, and of course 1/4 inch above the slit. I'm going to start off by backstitching. Okay, there's my slit. And backstitch. Okay. Alrighty. My slit line ends right here, but my stitching went a 1/4 inch past. Okay, so now face up, I'm going to actually cut my slit, and I don't want to cut my binding or my gauntlets. Actually, it might be easier for me to do it this way. Okay, now I want to do a little diagonal just on my sleeve, not my other seam allowance, up to where I backstitch. So it'll make like a little V shape. Okay, now I'm going to finish my binding by bringing it to the inside. Putting my raw edges together and folding it so it covers my stitches. I'm going to pin it, and I'm going to give it a top stitch. Okay, and I'm just gonna stitch where the slit is, straight down. Okay, so you can see the top stitch. Okay, next I'm gonna trim this so it's only 1/2 inch longer than the slit. There we go. Okay. Okay, I'm basically gonna do the same to the gauntlet. I'm gonna pull it out to the front of the garment, trim some of these little threads that are in my way. Okay, back to business. Pull out our gauntlet. There we are. Folding it in 1/4 inch and bringing it over on top to cover up that little stitch we previously sewed. All the way up to the top of the slit. Okay, so I'm gonna want to go ahead and top stitch this fold so it stays put. Okay, so I just gave the gauntlet an edge stitch. I stopped to where the slit stops. I'm trying to make sure all my raw edges are facing up as I kind of overlap these guys. And then I'm gonna fold in the raw edge to make a little pointy top. Folding it upside down. Let me try that again. There we go. My point centered. There we are. And then those points kind of lined up. This might be easier to do by the iron. I'm gonna give it a press and then put in some pins. Okay. And then my last step is I'm going to top stitch my little triangle. I just noticed my seam allowance should be stuck in the triangle, so I need to repin it to make sure that actually gets hidden away. There we are. That's better. Make sure I still have the shape that I'm happy with. Better. I'm going to sew down below. Okay, I think I'm ready for my top stitch. When I top stitch this, I'm going to sew straight across about 1/2 inch below where the slit opening is. I'm going to go up, top stitch the triangle, and go straight across again. So I'm going to go about 1/2 inch below, up, triangle top, and then the top right underneath the triangle. I have about a 2.5 stitch length in the back stitch, sewing straight, pivot turn, and I backstitch to finish. So unfortunately, my slit's open a little. This should have been closed, darn it. I should have double checked that before I pinned it. See, it's open about, I don't know, almost 1/4 of an inch. It would have been better if they lined up. But that's okay, it's just a notebook sample to practice. We are, so I'm just gonna give it a final press and we should be good. This is our finished tailored placket. That can go at maybe the bottom of a sleeve before you sew on the cuff.